Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Just Saying Football with Jack and Sean. I'm your host, Sean Gannon, alongside my partner, Jack Nicholas. We're here to bring you news, notes, weekly updates, and game analysis of your favorite teams from around the league. If you don't have the chance, go check out our website, Just Saying Football. Follow us on Instagram at Just Saying No GWJS for article and video updates. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify at Just Saying Football. You can get us in your ears. Before we jump right into our Sunday Superflex, just wanted to give everyone a quick note. We are going to be doing game picks throughout the season on Instagram. You can follow us there, check along with our records, how we're doing per week. We'll give you guys also a little bit of an update mid-season and stuff like that on how we're doing against one another. Make a comment in the section. Please let us know how you guys are doing as well. And just a reminder about our Sunday Superflex episodes. We go blowout games, math games, and games of the week. All right? Yep. Starting with our blowout games, we got two locks right off the bat. When the Houston Texans make their way to the Baltimore to take on the Ravens, we're both going with the Ravens on that one. And when the Jacksonville Jaguars make their way to Indianapolis to take on the Colts, we're both locking in the Jaguars. Jack, what are your thoughts on both of these games?
Yeah, so first off, with Baltimore, they're at home. They're playing rookie quarterback C.J. Stroud, second overall pick. In his first game, that's a really tough environment to go into. This is going to be a great game for Lamar to get accommodated with OBJ and Zay Flowers. See what he's been doing with Mark Andrews. See how J.K. Dobbins is doing in his recovery. Absolutely. And on the other hand, you have Jacksonville taking on Indianapolis while Jacksonville's on the road and they're favored at 4.5. And I think, we got to see how they fare, who gets the targets. Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk. You also have Travis Etienne and Tanks Bigsby in the backfield. So they're going to be able to do a lot of different things on the road. This is the time where Jacksonville starts taking control of this division. Trevor Lawrence, year 3. I think that they started off with an easy win.
Yeah, I'm locking in an OBJ touchdown in that Ravens game. And Trevor Lawrence, I expect big year 3, absolutely, like you're saying, especially considering what happened in the playoffs. Yeah. Moving this along with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers making their way to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. I'm nervous about this game, man. I know we're both going Minnesota in this one, but I'm always nervous week 1. We're doing the throwback jerseys. That's going to be cool. Obviously, Jordan Addison, I know you're huge on. Expect a big year from him. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think that it's time to see the Vikings step up at home. They just had a playoff loss to the Giants last year, but they made a great season. I mean, when you have double-digit wins and you have a playoff game at home, that's very impressive. They're favored heavily in this game by 6. I think they hit that easily. Essentially, the Buccaneers, they still have a good defense, but it's going to be on Baker Mayfield to see how he connects with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. But I do think there's a blowout. I think Minnesota has a chance to just run away with this game.
I'd love to see that. Let's see what our defense can do with Brian Flores. Now, moving this right along, we have the Arizona Cardinals making their way to Washington to take on the Commanders. I'll let you go first in this one.
Oh, man. So I love the Commanders in this matchup specifically. Arizona, obviously one of the teams that is expected not to do that well this year. Kyler Murray's still injured, trading away Isaiah Simmons. Very low over-under, 38.5. They're favored by 7. Washington is. That's, one of the bigger spreads of the weekend. I'm expecting a big game from Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin if he's feeling 100%. Oh, yeah. And, both Brian Robinson and Gibson, who's going to get more carries. At the end of the day, also Sam Howell, now the franchise guy for Washington. Are you that guy or not, man?
Let's find out. There was a first-round grade on him last year, but fell in the draft. I'm going with Arizona on this one.
Oh, my God.
I know that there's no quarterback there. That's totally fine. But week 1s are weird. Last year it was the Bears. A few years ago, Arizona versus Tennessee. Chandler Jones 5 sacks. Anything can happen. It's any given Sunday. There's a week to bet on Arizona. Why not week 1?
I like that mentality.
No real rhyme or reason, just a fun gut feeling right now. There's always one of them. But let's keep this moving because we're now going to get into our meh games of the year, or of week 1, I should say, not of the year. Kicking it right off, we have the Green Bay Packers making their way to Chicago to take on the Bears. Chicago's favored in this one.
Yeah, well, everybody's expecting them to improve. Everybody's expecting Justin Fields to take that large step. We saw him be 7th in rushing in the entire league last year, but we saw him have one of the lower pass attempts per game of almost any starting quarterback. On the other hand, the Aaron Rodgers era is done, and I got to see how Jordan Love does. But I will say this. I do think that the Packers overall have the team and the matchups and the familiarity coming back that they can defeat the Bears. We've seen them do it in the past in Soldier Field, and I do like the Green Bay Packers this week. What about you? I know they're both your enemies.
I'm locking in the Packers as well. They are both my enemies, so that is for sure. It's also going to be, two young quarterbacks taking over most historic rivalry in all of the NFL, which will be fun to see the next couple of years, see how they fare. I'm going with Green Bay. I think that defense just has a lot more talent right now. I expect them to also have a huge bounce back year from 2022. They were kind of mediocre. They could be a lot better. They have a ton of first-round talent on there that's been excellent the last few years, including Jair Alexander, who locked up my guy Justin Jefferson at home one time when we played him last season. So I do expect them to kind of lock down DJ Moore and what this offense is going to be able to do with Justin Fields. Moving this right along, we have another divisional matchup when the Vegas Raiders make their way to Denver to take on the Broncos. I believe we're both locking in Denver right now. What are your thoughts, though?
Yeah, I want to see what Sean Payton can do, but Denver at home in a matchup where both teams are underwhelming. I think that Denver's defense kind of outslays the offense with Jimmy Garoppolo now running it in Vegas. Pat Surtain versus Devontae Adams is definitely the wide receiver cornerback matchup to watch in this game. But, also, what is Javonte Williams going to look like coming off of a couple of years of being injured? And, I do just think at home Sean Payton gets the job done in his first game.
I think they kind of have to. We saw their defense only give up like 16 points throughout the first 10 weeks last year. Their offense was just nowhere near there. Sean Payton's supposed to be this offensive-minded guy. Did so well with Drew Brees and the Saints, as we saw. They won a Super Bowl together. Trying to bring that now into Denver. I hope that they can do it. I have high hopes for Jerry Jeudy's on my fantasy team. Injured, though. Didn't make the IR, so that's huge. Let's keep this moving. So we have the Tennessee Titans making their way to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Saints are also favored in this one by -3.5, an over-under here of 41. Derek Carr era now begins in New Orleans. What are your thoughts as we've both locked in the Saints?
Yeah, I love the Saints in this one. They're -3.5. I believe that, they are going to be utilizing, Jamal Williams heavily in this one, getting Michael Thomas back in. I do see Derek Carr getting around 300 yards and around 3 touchdowns in this one. I expect the Saints defense, who my man Shanzi is huge on this year, to go off against Tennessee Titans offense.
I have New Orleans winning the division. I expect this defense to be great, especially fantasy-wise. They do not play a top-tier quarterback. Take a look at their entire schedule when you get the chance. Also, do not sleep on Juwan Johnson, the tight end for them. He had a great season last year. Derek Carr also loves the tight end, as we saw with Darren Waller the last few seasons. Despite his injuries, he was always a huge target for them. Honestly, I just don't have a lot of trust in this Titans offense outside of Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins for the foreseeable future on this team. I think that it's just easy for the Saints. Moving this right along. Wow, another divisional matchup when the Los Angeles Rams make their way to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Seahawks favored in this one by -4.5, over under here of 47. We both have the Seahawks in this one.
Yep.
What are your thoughts, though, about this game?
Yeah, Geno Smith, can you show the magic that you did last year and, show us with DK Metcalf, Walker, Lockett? Can you get it done? This is a very fantasy relevant game. A lot of guys out there got Kupp, Akers. A lot of guys have the guys I just mentioned. Now, this is a divisional matchup, divisional matchup like Sean said, and I think that Seattle at home, 12th man, there's no way around it. You have to expect that the secondary is going to be trying to lock up Cooper Kupp, but expect Stafford and Cooper Kupp to try to get that connection back that, won them a Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just one thing I just want to note, 2 great draft picks by the Seahawks and Devin Witherspoon and Jackson Smith and Jigba. I do think this is an offense that could have 3 wide receivers that get over 800 yards. Quietly last year, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf both had over 1,000-yard seasons. It was not really talked about that much. Considering it was Geno Smith, I think that's probably part of the reason why. But don't sleep on this offense, and I think this loosely up-and-coming defense, especially with their secondary, getting back into that Legion of Boom era, and I like what we're seeing from them. Moving this right along, we have the Philadelphia Eagles making their way to New England to take on the Patriots. Philadelphia's favored in this one by -4.5 and over-under here of 45. We're both going Philly. How you feeling, though, about this one?
Yeah, Philly, they look good. They are the defending NFC championship. They drafted fantastic. Nick Sirianni seems like a guy who knows exactly where he wants to take this team. At the end of the day, New England, we don't really know where they're going. They're at home. Bill Belichick, he does not like to lose week 1. However, you have to wonder how Mac Jones is going to fare against the best pass rush from last year. Remember, other teams, the second, third best teams, they had 55 sacks. The Eagles had 70 sacks. Can Mac Jones overcome that, and can they keep up with Jalen Hurts' offense?
I just don't think that they're going to be able to at all. And currently on their roster, it's only Mac Jones. There's no real backup at the moment of recording this, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens if he goes down, who's going to step in. I guess it would be Cunningham for them, if anything.
Maybe.
But I just don't think that you have a lot to be excited about right now with the Patriots. Bill O'Brien's the offensive coordinator. And then speaking of coordinators, the main thing I think everyone's going to be paying attention to about the Philadelphia Eagles this season, they lost both their offensive and defensive coordinators to head coaching jobs, then hired Sean Desai as their defensive coordinator and Brian Johnson. Teams are going to be taking notes. How the Eagles plan? What is their offensive defense looking like? What's the best way to beat them? That's the team to beat in the NFC outside of the 49ers, I think.
Yeah.
So all eyes will also be on the Eagles team and how they handle their Super Bowl loss.
Yeah, for sure. And a Super Bowl rematch that doesn't have Nick Foles or Tom Brady. It's just crazy how, they went to the Super Bowl last year and it's a completely different team now.
Times are changing. It's crazy. Keeping this in our meh games, you have the Carolina Panthers making their way to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Atlanta's favored in this one by -3.5 and over under here of 40. I'm going Carolina, dude. I'm going to be honest with you. I like that defense. Adam Thielen's going to be a blanket for Bryce Young, I think, throughout the entire season. I think a lot of usage for Miles Sanders. If you draft him, start him this week. I know Atlanta got a ton of talent defensively. They added Jeff Okudah, Jesse Bates, Calais Campbell, Bud Dupree. Want to see a little bit more from Desmond Ridder, and I think I still need to see a little bit more from what this entire receiving core can do as a whole. As they kind of enter year 2 now altogether. Hopefully Kyle Pitts is also fully healthy throughout the season.
For sure.
But I like the Panthers. I think that defense is going to be pretty solid this season. I like J.C. Horn a lot also. Kind of slept on. Cornerback has been injured, but full season healthy. He'll be top 5.
That's true. The Panthers defense is going to be a great test for Atlanta and this kind of new look offense that they're running through Bijan Robinson. I will say, last year, it felt like they had no running backs. They had Cordell Patterson, Tyler Algier. This year, I think that they're going to stick to that run-first game, and they're going to kind of just start the season with a good flow. I see Atlanta winning this one at home. I don't like the spread of -3.5. Both of we both know these games go so close to the wire, and as Sean mentioned, one has a really good defense. One has bolstered their defense to be good this year. Both quarterbacks are kind of questionable and young, so it's going to be a lot of pressure on them, and it's going to be a big running back matchup, like you said. Straightforward. Frank Reich is trying to start off his era here and get the job done on the road, but I think he may get them later when they're in Carolina. I think for this time being, Atlanta wins this game at home.
All right, I like it. Definitely hit the over, by the way, on 40. I think it's going to be a little bit higher scoring than that for sure on both sides.
For sure.
In the bank. There we go. All right, in our last MAC game of the entire week, we have the Cincinnati Bengals making their way to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Cincinnati's favoring this one by -2, over under here of 47.5. At the moment of recording, we don't know if Joe Burrow is going to be starting week 1. Reports are that he's going to. Obviously, had the non-contact injury to his calf. How are you feeling? This is going to be an interesting matchup for the AFC North.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, the X factor is really Joe Burrow in the AFC North. If he were not to play a couple of weeks, that really affects the landscape of this division, which should be one of the more competitive divisions. This is probably the least met game. That's why we have it here, because it is really a great matchup. When it comes down to it, Joe Burrow is 1-4 in his 5 games against the Browns. So it's not something that, he takes lightly, especially going on the road in a division game in state, I may add. And he is an Ohio kid who grew up a Bengals fan. So there is some, no love lost really between these teams. We want to see how Deshaun Watson kind of handles this full season and the full off season, knowing he's going to be starting week 1 after dealing with the suspension last year. I will say the biggest X factor for me here is Myles Garrett against this Cincinnati Bengals offensive line. If they cannot protect Joe Burrow, I am worried genuinely about if they can win this division.
Yeah, no, I think if they don't protect him, there's a reason why they went out and got Orlando Brown Jr. And it's to keep him protected. Without him, it's going to be that much harder for them to win. We saw they were just in the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They want to get back. They were just in the AFC Championship game, pretty close in that one as well. I think Browns have a chance to be a top-tier defense right now. Myles Garrett, like you mentioned, Zadarius Smith, Dalvin Tomlinson, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who I've loved since his rookie year, Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and Grant Delpit. Just a ton of talent. I am leaning with the Bengals right now, especially if Burrow's in. I know the 1-4. I'll still take him in this one. think the entire offense has just been playing great. And this defense comes together in pretty important parts. We saw them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Just before the playoffs against the Ravens. I just think that there's a lot going for them. They have high expectations, and this team has the capability of reaching that. And that trio of wide receivers is fantastic. Expect another big year for Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I think Jamar versus Denzel is definitely the prime matchup, but I think that's a huge X factor for me too. I am going to go with the Browns at home. I hate to bet against Joe Burrow.
Fair enough. All right, our games of the week, everyone. We got some good ones for you because we have the Miami Dolphins making their way to L.A. to take on the Chargers. Chargers are currently favored in this one by -3, over under here of 51. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so two quarterbacks, obviously, both 2020 draft picks behind Joe Burrow, who we were just talking about. But, these guys have a lot to prove in this season. One guy looking to get paid, one guy just got paid. Justin Herbert getting the biggest deal in NFL history this offseason. And we've seen a lot of stride to, build around him. We saw them draft Quentin Johnson in the first round. They already have Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and Austin Eckler on this team. But Miami also high-powered. I think it comes down to the defenses and how they disrupt these guys. But the over-under in 51, that's suggesting to me it's going to be a shootout. How do you feel about it?
I would hit that over easily. I think we're both going Miami.
Yep.
Love some of the young talent that they have also outside of just Jalen Waddle. But Jalen Phillips on the defensive side and Javon Holland, want to give them a shout-out right now. Christian Wilkins at this moment of recording has not signed any contract and does not look to play week 1. Which I think all the more. If you have Austin Eckler, start him. Big week for him fantasy-wise. Big week for both these teams fantasy-wise, if you have any of them. Last year, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, over 1,200 yards. I expect them to go over like 1,350 together this season. I have high expectations. I think Tua is going to be relatively fully healthy this entire game. And again, hit that over 51.
And like I said on the Instagram, Jalen Waddle is at 1,075 in most sports books. He's going to break that. I said by week 12. I still believe that. And they need to show that off in this game. Protecting Tua starts as well with just getting the ball out quick. So Absolutely. I'm expecting less deep throws, but I would love to see this Miami team come together and use that speed. It is going to be a close game. Chargers by 3. I do think no matter what, Miami does cover that. I like Miami to win, but obviously the Chargers at home with the strides they have, expect Herbert to still have an incredible game. Just it's going to be a close one.
Let's see what he can do. Okay, keeping us in our games of the week. For our Sunday Night Football matchup, we have the Dallas Cowboys heading their way to New York to take on the Giants. Dallas is favored in this one by -3.5 with an over-under here of 46.5. Now, I know for a fact that Jack and I will not go Dallas in this one. I know for a fact that we are going New York. So tell me how you're feeling in your Week 1 matchup.
So in this Week 1 matchup, it's a divisional game like most this week, and it's been, the Giants are at home. I've been loving the home teams in this stretch, and I think the Giants are no different. They're coming off of a great playoff run season. However, the biggest factors here are going to be Evan Neal and Andrew Thomas versus DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons. If Micah Parsons is able to do what he always does to Daniel Jones and disrupt his offensive line, we're going to find ourselves in big trouble. Now, the great thing here really is, with Darren Waller, Jalen Hyatt, the Giants have made the moves that they need to compete in this division for the next couple of years, and I'm really looking forward to that. I think the defense disrupting Dak Prescott is going to be the biggest factor, and on Sunday night primetime, I would love to see the Giants go get a win. I'm just going to say that.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that the fans are going to be there. I think that it's going to be absolutely electric in the stadium. I'm really excited to see how Giants fans respond Week 1 Sunday Night Football against a division rival like the Cowboys. The Cowboys doubled down on their secondary. They got Diggs and Gilmore. They're hoping to be one of the best cornerback tandems in the league. They look like it on paper right now. We just got to see it in the season. But like you're saying, I agree with you. I think high expectations for this offensive line. High expectations for Daniel Jones. Only went 15-5 last year for a touchdown interception ratio. Want to see over 20. Did get Darren Waller. That's going to help Jalen Hyatt, things like that. I like it, though. I think it's going to be a tough one for Dak Prescott. Wink Martindale, like the defense, like you said. Got Isaiah Simmons in a trade. It's going to be huge. We saw him rushing the passer a little bit more. That will be great to see. Got Deontay Banks in the first round. They're really doubling. They're really trying to double down on their defense as well and some of their strengths. As you saw against the Vikings game in the playoff, obviously Philadelphia was a different thing. That was a mental hump for you guys, but I expect it to be
Yeah.
overcompetent.
And we got to
this
see
year.
Daniel Jones, first season, him getting paid. It's like him and Lamar both got paid this offseason. Justin Herbert got paid this offseason. A lot of pressure on these quarterbacks
Those last
with
two
their
names
teams.
made a little bit more sense for their payment. I'm sorry. I just wanted it on record.
You gotta
But
put it on the
hopefully he proves
record.
me wrong.
The one thing is in our last game, it's about just two QBs that genuinely do need to prove themselves right and wrong, is the Steelers and the 49ers.
Absolutely. I mean, San Francisco's making their way to Pittsburgh. 49ers are favored, though, -2.5. Only an over-under here of 41. I'm hitting that under.
You're hitting that under? What
Two
makes
powerhouse defenses.
Yeah, I was going to say what makes you, but it just screams. I'll tell you, it's
come on.
literally like these two teams are defined by the fact that no matter who they've had at quarterback the last few years, it really is on the defense to pressure the quarterback. Both of these teams are in really tough divisions.
Absolutely. I think you're looking at two of like the top three best divisions. I'm going Pittsburgh, though. I think Kenny Pickett, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson. I think they really all kind of come together, take that next step. They bolstered their defense, got Project Jones in the draft. That was smart. I do just want to mention, though, 49ers depth on the defensive line outside of Nick Bosa is fantastic. Hargrave, who they just signed off of Philly, Kinlaw, Farrell, Armstead, and Givens. That's fantastic with Nick Bosa not in the lineup currently. I think that contract will be figured out by week 1. It's currently not at the moment.
It'll probably be huge.
But 49ers, like I said about the Eagles, and I mentioned the 49ers, that one of the teams to beat in the NFC. I think we both have them winning the NFC West. High expectations for them. Trying to get back to that Super Bowl, especially with the whole Trey Lance trade at the draft. Now to Dallas. Expectations are high.
Now that you mentioned the Trey Lance trade, it is something I want to bring up, that this is now, Brock Purdy's team. We've gone through the seasons of Jimmy Garoppolo, these seasons of,
Nick Mullins,
coming in. We've had, injuries to the quarterbacks here in San Francisco a long time. You get the last pick of last year's draft, comes in mid-season, brings you to the playoffs. The kid knows the system. I think that the key here is that he knows how to use all of his weapons. George Kittle, Debo, Ayuk, and of course Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. I'm obviously expecting Christian McCaffrey to score in this one, despite the fact that the Steelers are good. You got to get creative just to beat them. But I think the fact that we know this is Brock Purdy's team, he's fully healthy coming off of his elbow injury. I do like them to start hot on the road. Making a statement as one of the NFC favorites would really keep them in a race. And beating a team like Pittsburgh really does make that statement, especially on the road. I love San Francisco. 2.5, take it.
I like it. Look, I just want to say one thing on the record about the Trey Lance trade. If you didn't see the video that I made, at the end of the day, they missed a ton of talent. In that trade, that is for sure. But in the last 5 seasons, 3 NFC Championship appearances and a Super Bowl appearance.
Can't be mad.
You can't really be all that mad at the end of the day, especially if you got a Mr. Irrelevant quarterback all of a sudden leading your team to the NFC Championship.
Must be nice.
Must be nice. Would be nice to be there one day, hopefully, for both of our teams. That's all the time we have, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And stay tuned for a ton of content. There's gonna be a ton of football coming at you this season. We're going to have a lot more content on fantasy as well as betting throughout the entire season. So just stay in touch.
Thank you guys for watching the episode. Super Sunday Flex. We're this every week. Appreciate it. Hope you love our picks. Always check us out, Just Saying Football, on YouTube and Spotify for all your shows here, and Instagram for all your updates, as well as our weekly game picks posted on there. Thank you guys for checking us out.
Enjoy.